I wanted you guys to have. All right, here we go. All right, so we'll start standing like usual. Let's just warm up with our neck from side to side. Up and down. And left and right. And take one hand and draw that head gently down towards one shoulder. So ear to shoulder, just gentle. And release, let's go to the other side. And let's do some half circles. Arms come up and small circles forward. And squeeze, make fists open and squeeze. And open and squeeze. And some big circles for 3, 2, 1, and out, and we'll go back, and squeeze, and open, and squeeze, and open, and squeeze. Good. And we'll bring it back for 3, 2, 1. Arms come back out, and pulse up and down. Palms up, facing up. Palms back. And palms forward. Good. 2 thumbs up, turn 1 down, and switch. Good. And open those hands, keep rotating those palms. And shake it out. Take those left toes, we'll turn them towards the left hand down, reach that right arm up, and open that chest. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold that arm back there and pulse 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring that hand down. I want to frame off that front foot, coming onto those back toes, and just let's go going forward and back, bending into that front leg and straightening. Good. Keep it going. I want to turn my light on. It seems a little dark in here. The sun was shining and then it wasn't. All right. And let's bring it on up. Coming back to center. We're going to turn to the other side. I'm going to bring my right hand down, either on my thigh or on my shin, and I'm going to reach out and open, out, and open. 3 more. 2, and 1. Open up and pulse. Good. And let's turn back and face that thigh, bending into that front leg, coming onto that back toe, and push back and forth. Good. And let's come back up, coming through center. Let's squat down, bring our hands to our thighs, and let's rotate towards one knee. So look at one knee, turning your shoulders, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other side, turning towards the opposite knee for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring both hands down and straighten those legs side to side. Good. And roll it up. Take those hands, bring them behind your back if you can. If not, you can keep them on your waist, or you can grab for your wrists. So I'm going to clasp my hands. I'm going to grab, and I'm going to start to fold forward. So inhale up and exhale, fold. Once I get as far as I possibly can go, I'm going to take my hands and just try to gently tug on them so they can come over my head. And hold here, 5, 4, your hands can be on your waist, 3, or on the ground, 2, and 1. Release those hands down to the ground. We're just going to heel toe our feet a little bit closer together so that we can come down to a little squat and just take a little stretch here. Good. And we're just going to have a seat, nothing crazy, and we're going to come into a little middle split position here. Doesn't have to be your widest straddle. whatever. We're just gonna do some gentle circles here. So circling, pick a direction, and let's go for it. For 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other direction for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's roll down, chin into your chest, and arch up. For 5, sorry. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bringing it up. We're going to go in the other direction. So let's bring our chest down first, and then rolling our chin into our chest for 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one, bringing it up. Let's raise those arms up, point through those toes, squeeze those quads. Think about belly coming down first. We're gonna go up and down. So reach forward, go as far as you can without rolling those knees in, and then come back up. For 8, 7, 6, think belly's coming down first. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Last one, you're gonna roll down and then see how far you can just relax down and just be comfortable here. It doesn't have to be your deepest nose split ever, but just take a nice stretch. Your deepest pancake, I should say. And let's roll it up. Let's frame off, pick a leg. I'm gonna do my left leg first. Further down your leg is gonna be harder. Up closer will be easier. Squeeze, point through your toes, squeeze your quads. We're gonna lift and lower our leg for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Other side, heading on over for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's come to the middle. Again, further is going to be harder. Closer in will be easier. Point those toes. Squeeze your quads. Both legs lift. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring those hands behind you. And just do some windshield wiper legs here. So pointing those through those toes and rolling over the tops of the toes. Good. And let's come on up to all fours. Keep your block close by. So if you have a block, keep it close. But we are going to just start in a tabletop. And from our tabletop, we're just going to do a few cat cows here. I'm going to move back a little bit because I'm going to want a little bit of space in front of me. And just do a few of those cat cows that we were just doing in our middle split pancake. And move at your own pace. Coming back to a neutral spine, walk your hands forward and see if you can just slowly drop your chest down. We're not going to stay here. We're going to come immediately back up. Walk our hands back to a tabletop. Give me another round of cat-cow, just one of each. Back to neutral. Walk those hands forward. See if you can drop a little bit lower. Inhale, come up. Walk those hands back. Again, cat-cow. Back to neutral. Walk your hands forward. And drop your chest. This time we're going to hold here for 5, 4. You can always be on your forehead. 3, 2, and 1. Let's walk those hands back in. And we're going to sit back. So from here, it's going to sit back on your feet. And I'm going to go ahead and lay my forehead on the mat. So forehead's going to touch the mat. My arms are going to be nice and straight. I don't want to bend my arms. I tend to bend them when I get a little bit lazy. So we're going to check in a few times to make sure our arms are staying nice and straight. Palms are facing down to start. Forehead is down. Focus on that right arm. See if you can tuck your rib cage in and keep your armpits close to the ground. We're going to start by lifting and lowering the right arm. For 5, it might not go very high. 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now spin those pinkies up to the sky. So rotate again, almost like you're doing a twisted grip. And lift and lower for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Other side. So now let's focus on that left hand. Palm is facing down. Lift and lower for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's spin our thumbs so they face the sky. And lift and lower. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Turning those pinkies up to face the sky. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rolling up one vertebrae at a time. I'm going to grab my block. I'm going to place it directly in front of my knees. I'm going to I'll actually do this hand first. So I'm going to pick a hand and I'm going to place it directly in front of my body. So centered in between my knees. You can get the block out of there. If you don't want it in there, you can keep it there. It doesn't matter. I'm going to bring my hand up to my ear. I'm going to cross my elbow over my elbow crease. And then I'm going to open to the side, push my chest forward. And then come back down for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Taking that hand, bring it down, and replace the hand that's on the mat. Other side, bringing my hand up to my ear. I'm going to cross over so that I'm crossing my elbows together, and then open up for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Releasing, getting that block out of the way for now. Keep it close. We're going to come back up to all fours. And from here, just shrugging our shoulders out. So moving our shoulders up and down for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tuck those toes. Lift up for a nice high plank. And again, holding our high plank, we're going to shrug our shoulders here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower all the way down to the floor. Reach your arms out in front of you. Head comes down. Inhale, squeeze through your glutes. Keep your toes down. As you lift your hands, pull them back like goalposts, so your fingertips are pointing up. Reach out, and then back down for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to flip over onto our back. So if you are not next to your pole at this point, you can see how I have my mat up against my pole. I'm actually going to make it even closer, right up against my pole. Adjust for a second and get your mat up against the pole. We're going to do a couple of shoulder mount little conditioning exercises that will get our core nice and warm. And also, I want you to focus on a couple things here. I want you to focus on your lower back. I always want it to be in contact with the floor because we want nice flat backs. And I want you to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze through your quads and point your toes. It's going to help you later on, I promise. So I'm going to lay, so my head is facing the pole. So you can see, or my head is in front of the pole, sorry. You can see I'm not worrying about my shoulders right now. I'm just worrying about centering my head on the pole. I'm going to take my hands, and I don't care at this point which one is on top and which one's on the bottom, but I am doing double cup. So double cup, one stacked on top of the other. Here, if you look at my back, it's not in a good position because I can actually take my hand and I can get my hand under there. The entire time, I want you to focus on tucking and pushing that lower back into the mat. Because when we do our Fonjis, this is what we want our spine to be doing in our shoulder mount so that we have a lot of explosive power to come out to a 45-degree angle, rotate, and come down. So push, 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 activate those core muscles. Bring your hands up into that shoulder mount hand position. Draw your elbows together. Lift your legs, point your toes, And we're gonna lift and lower while keeping our lower backs on the mat for 5, 4, push that lower back into the mat, 3, 2, straight legs if you can, and 1. Bring those legs back up. We're gonna do the exact same thing. And I'm gonna switch my hands for the sake of being nice and even. I'm gonna now try to pike my legs towards the ceiling, roll my lower back down onto the mat, and then do another leg lift. Yeah, I think I had my right on the bottom or my left on the bottom before. Forget about my hands. I'm gonna push my toes up. I'm gonna roll my back down, 1 vertebrae at a time, lower my feet down, and then come back to starting position. So we'll do 5 of those. Push those toes up, lower down 1 vertebrae at a time. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Good. Coming back up with those feet pointing towards the sky. I'm gonna switch my hands again. And now I'm gonna warm up my obliques a little bit. So I'm gonna come up onto my shoulders. I'm gonna take my knees to one elbow, bring them back up, knees to the other elbow, bring them back up, roll down, leg lift, back to our starting position. So pick a direction when you're working with those knees, but you're going to each side and we're doing a leg lift in between. Let's do 5 of those. Coming up, and knees, and pike, knees, pike, coming down, that's 5. And up, knees, knees, and down, that's 4. Coming up, knees, knees, that's 3. And coming up, knees, knees, that's 2. Last one, how's that lower back doing? Knees, knees, and lower down. Good. We're gonna do one more exercise here. So switch your hands once again. Point those toes back up to the sky. We're gonna come up, pushing our hips up nice and high into that pike position. This time we're gonna take our legs over our head and try to tap our toes to the floor behind us. Lift back up to our pike position and then come on down to our leg lift. So we're gonna come up, looks like this. Toes to floor, lift up, roll it down, and then leg lift. So just adding that little shoulder stand position in there to try to stack our hips nice and high. So let's do 5 of those. Pike those hips up, toes down, toes together, roll, and leg lift. That's 5. Up, down, up, and down. That's 4. And up, down, up, down. That's 3. 2 more, you got this. Up, down, up, and down. That's 2. Last one. And you can lower all the way down. Take a break. Come on up when you've rested for a moment. And I have one last little set of things I want you to do on the pole that's really just conditioning, warm-up kind of stuff. It is a little bit more of a lengthy warm-up that I do. And you know me, I'm a little lengthy, so we may go over a little bit. Sorry in advance. I want to warm up our wrists and our forearms a little bit. I use this not just for Fonjis, but even if you're training deadlifts or anything like that, to really protect your forearm and your wrists. Especially with Fonjis, we're going to be coming through and we swing and our whole body's force, the force of our body comes onto that bottom arm. Yes, we want to absorb a lot of that with our flag grip arm, but a lot of people tend to use their stronger shoulder mount and go to their weaker flag. I'm actually the opposite. I do weaker shoulder mount to stronger flag. But I find that when you do it the other way and you're in your weaker flag, you tend to put a lot of pressure on that bottom wrist. So something you can do in order to condition that and to work on the strength just in that bottom arm, I'm going to bring my hand, shooter grip, so magic finger pointed down, and I'm going to just take my legs out behind me, and I'm on my tiptoes. My legs are, maybe hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider, and you have to play with your hand placement. So you're going to find what works for you, but it's going to start straight. You can have like a cup position, or you can have it off to the side. But I want you to be in a nice straight line. So I don't want this, and I don't want this. I want you to think straight like a plank, and then you bend and push. We bend and push. So let's find that position, and we're gonna do, let's do 8 on each side. So finding that position, and 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm gonna switch sides. So just switching my hands, shooter grip on that bottom hand, and making sure I'm nice and flat and bending. I'm cheating so I can see in the camera. Usually I'm trying to angle towards the mirror. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Second one that I do here is same thing, but just to the side. So coming into a side plank position, you can keep your hand on in a cup grip. You can wrap the thumb. It doesn't really matter because that top hand is just there for a little bit of support. Or you can take it off, and we try to bend and push. Keep your shoulders pushing down your back for 8, 7, 6. Tailbone is tucked. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And other side. So bringing that hand down, coming into a little side plank, and pushing away for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And grab that block if you have it handy. Coming with your back to the pole. So push everything against the pole. If your lower back comes off the pole, it's not the end of the world. But I'm going to take that block and I'm going to raise it up. As I raise it up, I want my hands to be straight. Try to keep those ribs tucked in. Okay? And I'm going to take that block. I'll try to lower myself down so you can see better. And I'm going to try to take that block back and tap the pole. That's what I'm looking to do. So if it goes there easy, I have a modification for you. But if it doesn't go there very easily, that's where you need to do a little bit of work. So ribs are tucked in. I don't want that happening. I want ribs tucked in. Arms are super straight. Holding that block between your hands. Taking it back for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake it out. If that was easy, you're going to do follow along with me for the next step. If it was not easy, you're going to do that again. So either same thing or bring the block behind the pole. This one's a work in progress for myself. Try and keep those ribs in. Try and keep those arms straight. Reach the block back. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And you can release. Good. So any of that that we just did, I specifically do a lot of times when I teach Fonjis in the studio because it's all pretty targeted to what I think is really important to warm up. We're going to start with just finding the correct position, not just for our Fonji in our actual angle, but in our shoulder mount. The first thing when you want to start practicing Fonji is to take a look, and I encourage you to take a video, a picture, or look in a mirror. I'm also going to obviously watch you as well. But when you do your shoulder mount, I want you to be completely parallel to the floor. So think about as you're doing a shoulder mount, how you would typically lift your hips to get into a brass monkey or something like that. So what I would actually want you to do in your shoulder mount is to come up and have your back totally parallel to the floor. Elbows are going to be drawing towards each other. I really want you to think about those elbows drawing in. And when you're in your shoulder mount, it doesn't have to be your widest straddle ever. Like just kind of take your legs up to where they naturally go. Okay? So I'm going to come up, elbows together, pull up into my shoulder mount, and hold. There, that's a little more centered on the camera. With my back nice and straight. I don't want that or this. Okay? So I'm looking for your shoulder mount to have a flat back, just like we warmed up on the floor. And I'm looking for your legs to just naturally come back, not a huge wide spreading at this point. And I'm looking for you to have that control where your elbows are pulling in as well, okay? So warm up a shoulder mount so I can take a look at your shoulder mount as well. Give me a few on each side. And make sure you are warming up your non-dominant side, because I do find that my Fonji goes better on my non-dominant shoulder mount. Good. Is it Seda? Did I say it right, Seda?
It's Zaida.
Zaida, okay, I got it. Nice, Janice. Nice, Davy. Nice, Courtney. Yes, Clarissa, right there. Perfect. Oh, good, Natasha. Lower those hips. Nice to meet you in person. Finally. Good. Nice, Fred. Lower those hips just a little. Good. Right there. Nice. Emily, can you angle yourself to the side, Em, so I can see your side? Yes, there we go. I know for the spatial reasons, you may not be able to do that a lot. Say, good, perfect. Nice, Amanda, beautiful. I see you. Good. Nice. Good. So we all have a pretty strong shoulder mount, and I am not concerned about that. So one thing I do encourage you to do as you are working towards your Fonji, I constantly, even after I started getting it consistently and working on it, I'm constantly videoing myself so I can see my form. Because with Fonjis, and I make my students do it, because a lot of times if I'm spotting them, I can't always see what their legs are doing, and that becomes, and their back, it becomes really, really important. So make sure as you're doing these, you do film yourself, even if you're not posting it, just so you can like freeze frame and see what's going on. The other thing that's really important is the angle of your legs when you're doing your Fonji. So for your Fonji, a lot of times you'll see people, especially people like myself when I first started, when you don't know what you're doing, you're just kind of throwing yourself into that position and hoping you catch. And that's totally normal if you don't know where you're going. But if we think about geometry and physics with all of this, there is a perfect angle that you can find where you will be super aerodynamic, and it makes you actually make time in the air for your rotation and for that catch of the hand. So if you think about your pull, you want your Fonji to be about a 45-degree angle, meaning when I'm in my shoulder mount, I'm going to be snapping out and finding that 45-degree angle. So we're going to do a couple of super, I don't want to call them easy because they're not, but some very, very simple drills on the floor. When I say simple, you don't have to go up in the air is really what I mean for that, to find that 45-degree position, okay? So in order to do that, I'm going to I'm going to do this on each side, and I will watch you guys so you can watch first and then give it a shot in just a moment. But I'm going to lay on my pole like I'm going to come up into a shoulder mount. But I'm not going to shoulder mount just yet. I'm actually going to focus more on going into like a shoulder stand position. So I want to get myself to be completely straight up and down with the pole. So I have to be on the top of my shoulder is what needs to happen. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to pull my body up. I'm going to really, really pull myself up. I might even use my feet. I'm going to pull my hands in to get myself all the way up and pushing my body into the pole, okay? If you're here, it's not going to have the same effect. You actually want to be pulling yourself into the pole and pulling up and in. I'm going to squeeze my butt cheeks together, point my toes, and I'm going to start to drop my feet and drop and drop. And when I find 45 degrees or about that, I'm going to come back in. So when you're doing that, you don't want to stick your butt out. And I have a super, like my lower back is always in that position where my butt's sticking out. Forever have a banana back. So this for me is super difficult. But you need that plank position to be nice and aerodynamic in your Fonji. So this is a really good exercise to practice this, especially if you're somebody who does this, which is a big thing for me. So we come up, we're gonna do 3 to 5 of these on each side. I'm gonna demo again. I don't want you to go so far that you have to stick your butt out to come back in. And I don't want you to start with your butt sticking out, if that makes sense. Squeeze, gather your butt cheeks together, start to drop your toes towards the floor, and then I want you to squeeze your butt cheeks so that your toes are the last thing to come into the pole. So again, looking, it looks like this. Coming up, pulling myself in really close. I'm really trying to get my body on the pole. I'm here, and I lower to about 45. Come back in. Okay? It's one of my favorites. Squeeze, squeeze, nice. Nice, Shannon, good. I would rather you come down than come back up if you think you're gonna stick your butt out. Keep your legs together, Clarissa, so keep your legs squeezing together. Good. Nice, Janice. And Emerson, I see Amanda and Emerson, awesome. Hi, guys. Nice, Natasha, keep those butt cheeks tucked. Pull into the pole. Yep, drop your toes, squeeze your butt more, push your crotch forward. Yes, now keep that position to come back in. Really keep the crotch leading you into the pole. So squeeze those butt cheeks. It's super tricky, but that's another good one to take a video of and see if you have that 45-degree angle the whole time. Good, pull yourself up even higher, Clarissa. Get really, really high on those shoulders. And you can always put something under your shoulders if you're finding that it's bothering your shoulder, like it's hard on the floor. Nice, Davy, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Legs together and bring them back super strong, so nice. Try both sides, make sure you're doing like 3 to 5 on each side. Good, Ray, nice. Beautiful, yes. Really make sure you're bringing your crotch all the way back to the pole in your ending position. Good. Nice. They are not easy, but they are one of my favorites. Good, Davy. Get your body even closer to the pole when you come back in, hug the pole. Yes. Good, really squeeze. Good, Amanda. Good. So also from this position, since we're kind of trying to find that 45, we can take something that we did in our warm-up where we were doing all those ab things on the mat and do it in a faster paced setting. So we were basically doing all those leg lifts, but we did one where we piped up to the ceiling. The second one that we did, we piped up to the ceiling. But we used a lot of control for that. And you do want to control your Fonji. Obviously, you want to have as much control as possible so that you can make it smooth and controlled. But there is some element of needing to have some pop. So we need to actually be a little bit quick and snappy. So to find that snappiness, a great drill that I do on the ground is I'm in my position with my legs straight up, and I'm going to push my toes. I'm going to find a 45-degree angle by kind of picking an area. I always pick a spot on the ceiling. I'm always like, oh, I'll aim for like the top of the door. And I'm going to pop myself into that 45-degree angle and come back. So I'm going to try to keep my legs nice and squeezed. Elbows come in. I'm in my shoulder mount position. And I'm going to push my toes to the sky. So pop and back down. Pop and back down. Trying to push my crotch as flat as possible. So I'm pushing, coming up and down. Up and down. Okay? So try those 3 to 5 again on each side. And see if you can really use as much snap as possible. So you want, obviously, your glutes squeezing, but instead of trying to just push and control it, really think you're trying to kick the sky. Yes, make it super snappy. Legs together at the start and together. So Clarissa, keep your legs together the whole time. The whole time. Yes, really nice, super nice. Beautiful, nice, Ray. Nice. Good, keep those legs nice and straight, Natasha, from the start. So straighten them right there, yes. And push really hard, nice. Really, really good. Good, Emily, same for you, and legs straight up. So keep them straight to start, yes. And pop right from there. Point through your other toes, yes. Really, really good. Nice, Amanda, really pop. Good. Good, Andrea. Andre, I'm gonna get it right. I'll get it right before the end. Nice. Good, Courtney. Good, Janice. So a few on each side. Good, Shannon, that looked nice. Good, awesome. So part of what we're also looking for here to get that snap and to make that a little bit more fluid, and I promise we'll get up the pole soon, is we're gonna be looking for some compression in those hips. And we're gonna do this on the ground, and then we're gonna do this up the pole as well. So we'll be able to practice. If you're teaching this to somebody, or if you're working on this yourself, and you feel most comfortable grounded, you're like, I'm not ready to go back up the pole or go up the pole for any of this, you just come back and repeat any of these items on the ground. But basically, on the floor, what I'm thinking about doing is some compressions. So what I mean by that is I'm gonna have my legs off the ground, kind of like I'm in a shoulder mount. I am in a shoulder mount, but my whole upper back is on the floor. So arms are in a shoulder mount position. My whole upper back is on the floor. I'm just gonna lift my lower back. So notice it's just a tiny lift. I'm not here, okay? If I start here, I can easily just roll myself down to the floor, find that flat back position. And then what I want you to think about is you're gonna squeeze your quads, you're gonna squeeze through your core, and this one is a tough one because there's not really a recipe for how to find this. It's a springy position you need to find. It's all in your hip flexors. You wanna think about trying to keep your hip flexors loose while everything else is still tight. And you're moving your toes. Think about moving your toes towards the floor and back up. I actually think that it's easier to do in the air, but again, if you're still working towards a comfortable shoulder mount, this is one you can do on the floor. So on the floor, what it looks like is elbows in, lifting those hips, and then I'm just gonna try to find a little bounce. And I do find it difficult on the floor, but you can kind of get the idea of what you're looking for here, okay? You need to find that little bit of bounce before we can start to put the whole thing together. It should feel like you have a spring in your hips that's just kind of like bounce, bounce, bounce as your toes are going. I do find it, again, if you feel like on the ground, you're very like pinned to the ground and it doesn't feel great, don't panic. We are gonna do it in the air, but it's a great place to start to try to teach that. Let's bring your hips up a little higher, Natasha. So lift those hips. Yes, right there. Nice. Good. A little bit less hips there, Saida. So keep your hips like almost like you're shoulder mounting and lift your hips off the ground and then keep your toes pointing down towards the floor. So those toes are like a spring up and down towards the floor. The spring would be, yes, right there. Yes, nice. Good, Shannon. Good, Janice. Think toes down. So keep your hips lifted the whole time. Yes, much better. Yes, 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 yes. And this is something that will not only help you with your Fonji, but with any grip change that you want to do. If you're trying to do like elbow, cup, flag, all of that stuff, this little motion will help you with grip changes. That was nice, Amanda. Yes. Good, Clarissa. Awesome. If these feel okay to you and you want to try them up the pole, okay, what you could do is come up into your shoulder mount and do the exact same thing. So I would come up into my shoulder mount, flat back to the floor. No, my camera seems a little bit crooked. Flat back to the floor, and then basically from there, I'm gonna try to do my compressions. So same thing, and I'm gonna have my back flat to the floor and come up And then try to find a little bit of weightlessness in those legs as you do it up the pole. So up to you if you want to do it on the floor or if you want to do it up the pole. Do what feels comfortable to you, but try some compressions on both sides. So compress on both sides. Good. Good, keep those hips nice and low, Clarissa, that was nice, parallel to the ground. Focus on keeping them as parallel as possible, keeping your core strong. Nice, Janice, yes. Good. Courtney, if you can move your angle so I could see you from the side, it would be more helpful, I think. Good, Davey. And I know spatially you might not always be able to do that for me, but good, Courtney, yes. Good. Janice, beautiful. Nice, Em. Good, Ray. Lower those hips, Natasha, a little lower. Yeah, right there. And toes to the floor. So think toes down. Find movement in your hips. Almost think like floppy legs, but at the same time, they're still engaged. Oh, that makes sense, Courtney. I know, I always try to look in the mirrors every time to make that work. So give it a try on each side. And if it doesn't feel great, guys, this is something that comes with practice. So watch back your video if you take a video of this and watch what you're doing. If you find that you're just kind of like not moving your hips at all and just finding some movement like in your ankles, you'll see that in your video. You want to feel almost like the hip flexors in here have no tension. It will have a little bit of tension like a spring, but the rest of your body is nice and engaged. Okay, what we also can do with this, if you're like, I got this, this is super easy, the next step would be to practice walking your hands down the pole. And if you're actually able to find that spring in your hips, you'll be able to be on your shoulder and walk your hands down. And so the walking of the hands, not necessarily something that will help you with your Fonji other than the control in your shoulder mount, but it will help you find that spring in your hips. So if you have a strong shoulder mount, even if the compressions don't necessarily feel comfortable, you can still try this. So I would come up into my shoulder mount, and as I compress, I'm gonna start to walk. I'm gonna actually face you guys so you can see my hands, and then I'll do it again from the side so you can see my legs. So I'll come up into my shoulder mount, and I'm gonna start to walk. So compress, 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 compress. And I can come all the way down, that's a little lower than I thought, all the way down to the floor. So I'm using that momentum of my legs. And when my legs are at their highest moment, that's when I'm switching my hands. That's a big thing with your Fonji is when your legs are at 45 degrees, that's when the magic happens. So if you need to see it again from the side, here, I'm in my shoulder mount, and I walk. That would be your next progression that you would do when you're conditioning for your Fonji. Nice, Clarissa, yes. Keep those hips nice and high, or nice and even, I should say. Don't let them drop below parallel. Good, Em, yes. Nice, Janice. Nice, Davey, yep. Good. And give them a shot on each side. Good, Amanda. Yes, I saw those hands move. Nice. Yes, Natasha. Yes, yes. Oh, and anybody who doesn't know, I have a TV on the wall, so I'm not watching you. I'm actually watching you on a big screen. So if you're like, why is she not looking? I actually am. Another progression that I teach with these that you can do working towards your shoulder mount, towards your Fonji, would be to then climb the pole in your shoulder mount. I'm gonna put some dry hands on actually. Climb the pole in your shoulder mount, and then from there you would walk down. So exactly what you just did. I am gonna do these in here because I tend to kick my ceiling with some bent legs, but if you are like super strong and you can go up in your shoulder mount climbs and you've done these before, you can do them with straight legs. Every time I do them with straight legs, I just nail the ceiling. So you might need to save that for when you're in a studio. But I'm gonna use that compression and I'm gonna come up, I'm kind of like bend and snap, think Legally Blonde, bend and snap. I'm gonna be bending and snapping towards the ceiling to try to walk myself up the pole in my shoulder stand. My hands are not going to walk the way we're going down. They're gonna stay the same and they're gonna shimmy the entire way up. So I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna go nice and low so you can see as many of these as possible. I'm gonna come up, and when I'm ready, pull up. And then walk it down. So to get up, I'm thinking about, the first one's the most awkward because you're in your shoulder mount. You want to think, ooh, that got me out of breath. Kick the ceiling and then come like, almost like a froggy jump. Bring your knees back into your chest and then kick to go up, knees back in your chest. You can do them with straight legs. It's that compression the whole time, but with the bent legs, it not only helps you find what that spring needs to feel like, but you get a little bit more height too. So I always recommend trying it with the bent legs first, and I'll do one or two more if you need to see it again. So coming up. And coming back down. Woo! Those always get me. Yes, Andre, nice straight legs too. Yes, nice, Davey. And if you don't feel, I'm not saying this because anybody's not doing this, if you don't feel like you're going anywhere, video yourself. I promise you, you're going further than you think. And the first couple times you try it, you may not go anywhere, but the more you work on those compression and those hips, nice, Janice, the more height you're gonna get in your climbs. Nice, Emerson, yes. Yes, Emerson, nice. Get it. Awesome, yes, Natasha. So good. 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 Yes, Ray, awesome. Don't let those hips drop, you'll get so, yes, nice. Really, really good. So good. Good, Janice. Nice, Courtney, super strong. So good. And don't burn yourselves out too much on these because obviously we have plenty more to go. But definitely make sure you give it a try and ask questions. If you have any questions, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, just unmute yourself and ask. It's totally fine. We're not a super huge group. It should be totally fine. But when we start to try to put everything together, our 45 and our compressions, so our 45-degree angle that we need for our Fonji and our compressions, it's another thing that we can start from the floor, but then also from the air. So I'll show them from the floor first, this next drill, and then I'll show them from the air. So I'm gonna be on my shoulder again, and both sides obviously is what I want you to be trying. I do all the drills on both sides, but I only Fonji on one side, I will tell you that. I will do it on both sides, I just haven't worked up the courage yet. So I'm gonna be in my shoulder mount position, and I am gonna lift my lower back, so I don't wanna be flat on the floor, I don't wanna be here. I wanna be in a very low shoulder mount. Now I want to compress and snap to 45. So combining our compressions and combining the drill where we were pushing up to 45. So elbows drawing in, low shoulder mount, compress, snap, and come back. I don't think that was a good 45. I'll try again for you. I'm going to compress, snap, come back. So you want it to be so snappy. Think you're Dorothy clicking your heels together, okay? And I really do recommend, this is one where I will video myself and I will pause the video to see if I'm actually getting a 45. Because you can see if you're gonna be too low or too high. Hopefully I couldn't see myself in the camera when I was doing it. I think the other two were more on the, better on a 45 for you guys, but I highly recommend, in the beginning when I first learned how to do Fonjis, I would video myself and then use the markup tool on my phone to actually draw a line and see if I'm in that actual 45-degree angle and see if I'm straight. Because you want to be here, you don't want to break your line. You want to be in a nice plank position, coming out, snapping those legs together, okay? Nice, Courtney, even more push with that crotch. Push your crotch forward as you come up. And push, yes, and now more 45. Now you were too high to the sky. Yes, better. Nice, Aida, yes. Good, Janice. Nice, Shannon. Yes. Even more to a 45-degree. Yes, Ray, that was better. Good, good. Davey, I can't, oh, I can see your mirror though, Davey, that's good. Awesome. Natasha, if you could lower your camera just a little bit, I'll be able to see a little bit better. Sorry, I'm gonna make you guys move it a million times. Nice, Amanda. Really pop those heels together. Do another one for me, Natasha. Let me see. Okay, look over here again, Natasha. Let me show you one more time. So I want you to lift. So instead of coming up, I know it's confusing because I showed you two separate drills, but we're kind of putting them together. So I'm here. This is my starting position. Now I'm going to snap out to 45. So compress, snap, come back. Compress, snap. So now, that's okay. When we were here, we were doing these. My intention is to have you find that snappiness in your hips and to feel where 45 degrees is. And now that you sort of kind of are like, okay, I kind of get where it is. Now we think about bringing those legs together because that's what we have to do to rotate in the air and defy gravity, okay? Yep, compress, snap, and go. Real quick, I am gonna show you up the pole version of it. When you go up the pole, so you can either repeat these from the floor or do them up the pole. When you do them up the pole, you're gonna have so much force, you don't wanna hold out there. Come down. So on the ground, it's easy because your back is pinned to the ground. I shouldn't say easy, it's not easy. It does hurt your collarbone, you could always pat it. I know I think I said that earlier. Stick a towel there, whatever. But up the pole, you wanna have so much force coming out to that 45-degree angle that you have to come down. So it's not sustainable for you to stay up there because you wouldn't stay there in your Fonji, you actually have to come down. Okay, so elbows together, come up into my shoulder mount, compress, snap, and then I'm just gonna bring my feet down to the floor. Okay, so coming up, elbows together, shoulder mount, and come down. Okay, so it's too much force to stay up there. So I'm here. Fast. Click those heels together. So either try it from the floor again, from the ground, just try one or two on each side so you kind of feel it out and see how it goes. And then we can give you another progression of that. And your collarbone might actually not feel great at this point because we've been beating them up, but we need that Fonji. A little more of a 45-degree angle, Janice. You were a little bit closer, I don't want to say you were in a plank position, but closer to plank. So think a little more angle to the sky. The 45 is what's going to get you have time for that rotation and get into that armpit. Nice, Courtney, really nice. Good, Natasha, that looks better. Yes. Nice. Good, Ray. Keep pushing that crotch forward. So think about when you, and this is for everybody, when you're popping out to 45, this is the position that I'm thinking, like really pushing with my crotch to not have this happen. If this happens, you've broken your straight line and now you lost momentum. So to be really effortless in your rotation, you want to think legs together. And then when we start thinking about rotating, they stay together until you face the ground. And then when you're facing the ground, that's when we swing through. Your legs really should only part as they're coming to the pole. That's pretty much for me the hardest part, is not rushing and keeping my legs open. I really try to keep them, I'm still working towards that myself, as much of a pencil in the air as possible.
Could you do it one more time?
Me?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm gonna do it one more time and then I'm gonna show you the next progression as well. Yeah, I'll do that and we'll talk about muscle memory stuff as well. So elbows together, coming up, compress, snap, then I'm gonna bring my feet down. So compress and come down, okay? Try that and then we'll move into some muscle memory stuff as well. I don't wanna give you too much at one time. It's a million drills that I teach and I'm trying to pack them all in for you guys. Davey, lower your shoulder mount was hips were too high. Be more parallel at the start. So lower those hips and compress, snap, go. Good. That was much better. Good. Nice, Em. That was awesome. Super good. Good, Ray. Good, nice, Emerson.
This may be a dumb question, but is it possible to do Fonjis with like a shirt with sleeves on, or is it better to have contact with your skin?
So I personally, and that's a great question. It's not a dumb question at all. Well, there's only certain tops. Even this top, I was like warming up today and I was like, oh, it might get in my way for Fonjis because like there's material there. I want skin there because if you think about it, you're gonna be gripping in your shoulder mount and then we flip over, we come to our flag, so our shoulder doesn't matter. But when you turn over, you don't wanna have that shirt there and slide down. So I would personally say, that you don't want to put anything there. It will get better. I promise you, it doesn't feel good right now. It totally does get better, especially what you can do is the ones on the floor, you can pad your shoulder for those. So if you're like, oh my God, like when I train Fonjis, every drill that we're doing, I do them every single time. I'm like, today I want to focus on Fonjis. And in the beginning, I would always have like a towel or something for the ones on the floor because it does hurt. I have one girl that comes to the studio and she has super, super long hair. She actually tucks her hair into her shirt to pad for her boobs because they get in the way sometimes. But everybody usually wants to keep contact. For me, I think contact with the skin on the shoulder is really, really important. If mine are too slippery, I'm not catching and then I'm just gonna go right down. Or I'm not, sorry, catching my return, getting my return, and I just go right down. Let's talk a little bit, we're gonna use that shoulder mount position. We'll talk a little bit about, and I'm sure you know this, if you're here taking Fonjis and you have a strong shoulder mount, you probably know what actually happens. But we go, if you think about it, from our shoulder, so whatever shoulder I'm gonna go from that shoulder into my opposite armpit. So basically, whatever hand is low, I turn towards that hand. I keep turning. My head should not pass the pole, okay? That's when you worry about teeth and jaws and things like that. Your head stays on the same side of the pole. And then you bring that bottom hand, you slide it down into a shooter. In your real time, you would take it off. But as you're practicing your muscle memory, you turn towards the pole, you say, oh, this hand goes here. And then this top hand slides down and it comes into my flag grip, okay? So I'm going from here, turning, and regripping, okay? And most times, I teach a class on Thursday nights where that's my students just stand there and do that for like the first couple minutes. So that's something that when you're starting to get ready to actually do them, regardless of how comfortable you are with them, you wanna practice that muscle memory. So come up to your pole and pick a shoulder, lean against the pole, bring your hands in your shoulder mount position, but we're not gonna shoulder mount. I want you to look at your bottom hand and start to turn towards your bottom hand, but keep your head on the same side of the pole. Keep turning, bring that bottom hand down into a shooter, and then slide that top hand into your armpit. Then you're gonna do the reverse. Slide that top hand up, back to a cup. Bring that bottom hand up, into a cup, and back to your shoulder. And turn again. So we go back and forth, and you can speed it up. So I'm actually gonna do it not on my mat because I'm sliding, or not sliding enough, but you'd be here, and then you turn, and come here. And turn, and turn. Oop, I'm getting stuck on my floor. So much humidity here today. Try just a few of those so you know which direction that you're going in. Because we're gonna do a little bit more of a dynamic drill where it's kind of shoulder mount flippy, but nothing too super crazy. So just a couple of those so I can see that you know what's happening. Good, Courtney. Turn, 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 and yes, nice, nice. Good, Saida, nice. Good, Clarissa. And turn, good, nice, Andre. Good, Natasha. And turn into that top armpit, Amanda. Keep turning. Turn, 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 turn. Top head. Yes, there we go. Nice.
I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
I think it's quick. So when I go to catch on my bottom hand, my thumb often gets rolled over and I really hurt my thumb. So I'm not going to even try this today, but
Totally fine.
is there anything that you have to suggest
Let's definitely talk about that because I have absolutely hyperextended. I have also done this where my bottom, that catching hand, this whole pad of my hand will be so bruised, like black and blue, to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do in there? I had a student break her hand actually doing it. The way you can avoid that, unfortunately, is by putting your bottom hand in the correct position when you're catching, which I know is like the no-brainer, like, well, yeah, I want to put my hand in the correct position. But we'll talk about the correct positioning in just a moment when we talk about our flag swings. But you want to avoid your hand when you grip from being too high, okay? A lot of times, anytime I've had trouble with my hand or with my shoulder, the shoulder of my catching hand, the one that's extended, it's because I've re-gripped too high. So when I do my Fonji and I turn, if I'm here and I try to come here, there's so much happening. I'm jamming everything and then I do this, or I'm also jamming my shoulder. So what the next drill, it does lead kind of nicely into the next drill, your question, is to make sure that you understand where you're going and you are so comfortable with that 45-degree angle that you have enough time to correctly place your bottom hand. We haven't talked about the correct bottom hand placement yet, and I'm going to talk about that when we talk about flag swings and things like that. Because if you're kind of placing it too extended, and I will get more into this, you're going to smash your crotch on the pole, which is also going to be a problem for that hand because it will do weird things. So there is a technique that we're going to talk about with a little bit of bend. If you practice Chinese pull tends to have a straighter arm, but most times what you'll see and how I've learned it and what I find to be most comfortable is with a bend in that bottom arm, and that arm comes into my belly, okay? It's not a super bend though, because notice as soon as I do that, now I'm compromising my wrists and I'm compromising my thumb. So I want an angle so that I don't smash my crotch and so that I do have a nice grip and I'm not hyperextending my thumb. If I come down, and I was doing a couple of them before we started today, and if I come down and I feel my hands are wrong, I bail. I take my hand out and I would rather just put my feet to the ground. It's not worth getting injured. I would even bail, honestly, if I was competing and I felt like I was gonna break my hand doing it, I would rather not break my hand. I would just take my hand off. Should your hands move to the position at the same time or super quick? So in that drill that I just showed you, it's not super quick. We're just knowing where our body goes. So when we're doing this drill here, we're sliding, we're finding the right placement. It's really just so you know in the air, I have to turn towards the pole and this is where I have to end up. What you could do once you're more comfortable with it is you could say, okay, I'm here, because this is actually what's happening, okay? In the beginning, a lot of times you will do a little more sliding, especially on the return. I find I did a little bit more sliding with my hands. Now I actually take them off and regrip. So there is some degree of sliding that can happen with the top hand for sure. The bottom hand always has to come off. You cannot keep that hand on and expect to catch. That's when you start to worry about things like broken hands and stuff like that. Does that answer your question, Natasha? And did that answer your question about the bottom hand, Shannon? Possibly, maybe. I did have one of my instructors at the studio has an injury from the hyperextended thumb right now as well. It's not broken, but I mean, she's been doing Fonjis for a while and it just slipped. It was a slippery day, her hand slipped and she hyperextended it. So, I mean, and not to scare anybody, they are not, they're not, Fonjis are awesome, but when you're not feeling it one day, if you start doing it, my biggest advice is don't do them. If you're like, you start one day and you're like, wow, I felt so great. I was doing them yesterday. I'm going to do more today. And then you start doing them and it's like you've never done them before. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Anytime you're doing anything where it's like pull, like acro stuff, like where you're pull sport, like flipping, if it doesn't feel good, that's the time you're really going to hurt yourself if you're doing it when your body's just feeling a little bit off. So it's so important, especially with Fonjis, to listen to your body because they are certainly dangerous. But if you understand all the mechanics and all the little twists that we're kind of little tweaks that we're going over, and you understand that they're very technical, you can make them as safe as possible. Okay, let's talk a little bit about moving into the bottom place, the placement of that bottom hand in just a moment as we go over that turn in the air. So right now we're going from here to here on the floor. If you've ever done a shoulder mount flip, okay, that's harder than what we would actually be doing in this drill. So if you're like, oh, I don't really shoulder mount flip, it's similar to a shoulder mount flip, but that's even more intense of going up and over. I'm gonna take my legs. So if I'm gonna go onto my left shoulder, I'm gonna take my legs and I'm gonna bring them towards the left. Just bring my feet to the floor, and then I'm gonna find my flag position. And that's where we're gonna talk about that bottom hand. So if I'm in my shoulder mount, I'm gonna say, okay, I wanna go this way. So I'm gonna go over, just place them down. Got a little stuck there. Slide the hand and come into that top arm. Okay, so again, I'm coming up, coming over, down, and into the arm. So as you do this one, and we'll talk a little bit about how to get over, I want you to start thinking about the bottom hand. The bottom hand is gonna come into your, like that elbow. I'm thinking about it coming into my belly. So elbow just off to the side of my belly button. My hand is not, it's not here, it's not here. It's on the same side of the pole as my body, so that I then can come here and I'm here, okay? So I'm using that elbow as support. So all I want you to do, come up to the shoulder mount, and you can do it very slow and controlled. I did get a little hung up on the pole because it's sticky in here. It's so humid in Pennsylvania today. But you can come up, okay? Take your legs to the side, pull up, bring your feet down, and then you can say, okay, here I am. See if you can lift your feet. If you're like, nah, that's easy for me, take your legs over a little bit faster. I am pulling up with my hands to bring my legs over. We're ignoring the snap right now. I just want you to practice the direction, the muscle memory, and the placement of the bottom hand. So we're here, down, and into your belly with that bottom hand, and lift. Yeah? There is a lift of the hips that happens to get your legs up and over to the side. It's not a full shoulder mount flip. You're turning towards the bottom hand. Pull in, Andre. Yep. Yes. Yes. Good, Clarissa. Nice. And lift. Finish it. Great. That was excellent. Good, Ray. Yes, Natasha. Good. Practice a little bend in that bottom arm. See how that feels. Good, Emerson. Yes. Nice. we already talked about something in a second. I saw something you did, but I want everybody to know. Saw something. Wait till everybody gives it a try. Nice, Em, keep turning. Yes. I noticed, and not just Davey, this is everybody who does this, myself included when I started doing them. I know we talked a lot about those compressions. One compression, lift up, compress, go. If you go up there and you're like up, and keep fluttering your legs like we did in that drill, you're gonna lose momentum. If you wanna get the most out of, like the biggest bang for your buck, you go up, one compression, and go. So even with the flip, one compression down. So make it all one movement. Start to develop that habit early because it makes it so much more. It's not a full 180-degree turn. It really is not, Shannon. You're right about that. You are flipping over, but I always find that so I don't hurt my boob, I am slightly turned. Like if I were doing it, I would be slightly turned towards the camera. Sometimes I'm a little bit more parallel to the ground. I don't believe it's a full 180 turn. If you want to aim for it for sure, but you're in your armpit, you're squeezing that armpit in. I'm a little bit turned into that chest so that I'm not scraping or really bashing my chest into the pole, if that makes sense. Nice, Davey. That was better. Good, and pull in. Good. Nice. And I do have a few more drills I want to go over, guys. I know it's 1:15, but I'm going to keep going. So if you have anything to do, I know it's Saturday. Sorry. Feel free. I'll send the recording out, but I want to keep going over a few more of these drills to start to put them all together. As we're talking about getting into the position with our hands, we also need to consider what's going to happen when we finally do catch in that Fonji or that catch position. And I'm going to readjust here because I like to go up one climb for this. We're going to work on swings. And I think some of you have worked on this with me in my Wednesday class. But basically what we want to do is now from this position, we have to go back. So think about that 45-degree angle that we focus so much on the whole beginning of this class. It comes back to haunt you in part 2. You want to be able to swing your legs in those flag swings. So in this position, legs coming up behind you, you want to swing them so high that you're aiming for 45. This is why I need my towel to wipe my armpits off. So you're aiming for 45 degrees so that you can get your legs super high. So let me demo and then we can talk about it. So I'm going to come up and I'm in my armpit. So I really get in my armpit. Elbow is drawing in, bringing my elbow into my belly, and I'm gonna push up. Okay, I'm gonna do it again because I turned a little bit, but I do wanna talk a little bit about what's happening. I don't want to see your butt as the highest point. I wanna see your toes as the highest point. In order for that to happen, this comes back to our compressions and that looseness in the hips where you're swinging your legs, literally you're driving your leg forward and back, forward and back. So you're really looking to get those legs up without this happening. So no, I see a lot of that. The butt goes first. Looks super awkward, but I do see that a lot happening. So you're pushing the legs back and it's coming because I'm pushing with my hand. So it's kind of hard to see that, but what I'm doing is this. Push, push. And that's where I think a little bit of bend is super helpful in that bottom hand. And I think most would agree with me, depending on the style of pull that you do. So if I'm coming up, I'm gonna turn my butt a little bit towards you so that you can really see these. I'm gonna come into my elbow into my belly. I'm gonna go forward, up. Okay, I also want you to notice, and this is super, super difficult, legs together. You're gonna want them to be wide. Don't do that, legs together. Do not break, none of this. Try not to break the line. Oh, nice, Emerson, yes. Feet together, point those toes. Good, Courtney. Look down, Andre. More down. Yeah, there you go. Think like you're diving down. Push through that bottom arm. Good.
Do you end up slowly sliding down like out of your armpit, or that's just a strength?
In the beginning, absolutely, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm up here and it's like so much on my armpit. But as you get better at them, you won't slide so much. My armpit's doing almost everything, but my bottom hand, and this is where, for me, why I prefer my Fonji weak shoulder mount, strong flag, is because I really want to be able to push with that bottom hand. I also like knowing the worst part is over once I turn myself down, because I feel like the return is easier than the catch. I had a much harder time learning the catch than the return. Oh, bye, Davey. Thank you for coming. I will send it out today. Don't worry. You'll have it. Plenty more to come. But yeah, it is the flag's nice and good. Good. Nice, Emerson. Really nice control. Beautiful. Nice, Natasha. Yes. Squeeze those legs together. Awesome. Good. So if you're like, oh, this is super easy for me, there is a place that you can take this, okay? I learned this from, if you follow Cirque Ev, he's one of my friends. He's in Cirque du Soleil, but he's actually, his fiance is from my area, so they train with us when they come into town. He's the one who taught me this drill. You swing right up to, I just did a combo with it this week. Swing right up to brass monkey. And I would even tell you, as you're working on this, a couple things. Reduce the number of swings. So the first time you do it, you're gonna want to take a few swings to get up there, but do not hinge from your hips. I want you to keep your body straight. I want you to swing so hard that you go past 45. So it's more than you need. Connect your foot. You're gonna come up to a pencil. You connect your knee, and you're in a brass monkey. The scary thing is, and I will tell you this, I wish I was there and able to spot you, is that if you don't connect your knee, you could go all the way over. So I will give you that disclaimer that it is definitely something that is a little bit more dangerous. But as I swing, I'm gonna take a swing, and I wanna try to reduce the number of swings, so I'll do one swing, and I'm gonna go up. But you may need a few swings. It's okay if you need to take a few swings the first couple times you try this. So I'm gonna come up, and set up, I'm here. I'm gonna squeeze, and I'm gonna go forward and up. For brass. I'm relying on my momentum taking me up, squeezing my armpit in, and pushing through that bottom arm. So it's gonna force you to push through that bottom arm. I also start these a lot of times, even if I'm doing a press up, so not even talking Fonjis, I always point my toes forward first, so I have that little extra kick. So when you're playing with your flag swings, play around with how that feels if you start with your toes forward versus if they're trailing behind you. Okay, I'm gonna do it again so you can see it again. So coming up, I'm gonna point them forward, and, oh, I'm gonna take two. Give it a try if you want. You do not have to, but it was super helpful because it really drives home how high you need to go. You don't need to go that high, but if you can do that, the return will be a lot easier for you. Again, progression-wise, if you're like, man, these flag swings were already super difficult, you stick with flag swings. I'm not laughing. I always like watching these the first time because everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's so much higher than I thought. Push through the bottom hand, guys. Elbow comes in. I'm really thinking about also diving my head down. So as you're doing these, as your legs start to come up, I want you to look down towards the floor and look at the pole. So look down at the pole. this is the same that holds true for a brass press up. If you try to press up from here, so same thing with Fonji's, but I can do this a little bit slower. If I look forward, I can get up, but it's not so smooth. If I look down, if I dive and slide, it's a lot smoother. It's the same thing when you're taking it and doing it faster. So if I were doing my press up, look down, it's so much smoother when I tuck my chin into my chest. So as you're trying to swing up for your brass, I want you to think about face down, ass up. In the words of Ludacris.
I have a question. So I'm always struggling with my forearms for some reason. So when I was practicing those flags, I felt like I was overdoing it with my forearms. How do I avoid doing that, or should I just do more exercises? I'm not
So
sure.
it's a combination of two things, what you're saying. So, okay, first of all, what are you doing, your dominant or non-dominant flag?
I'm doing my dominant flag.
Okay, that's a good thing then. So this should actually, end up being a little easier to correct. First thing, the beginning of the class when we did these guys, that will help build the strength in that area. And you might need to take a break from those while it heals. But when you're ready to work on those, start with that. Like that first drill is super helpful because again, think about it, all the force of your body is coming down. The second thing goes back to Shannon's question, how she was talking about her hyperextension of her thumb. It all comes from the placement of that bottom hand. If it's too high, that's when you do things like hyperextend the thumb and when you hurt that bottom forearm. You want to think about, I'm really thinking elbow into my belly and it's a slight angle to the floor. This would be too high. I would even say this is too high, but sometimes you can cheat it a little bit, but if it's too high, you're gonna hurt yourself. I would want a little bit more extension with a micro bend in that elbow is what I'm looking for. Just enough that you're popping off of that hand and you're able to push. If you're feeling any tension in that forearm, you maybe had dumped too much weight into it. Like I know you've talked to me about that, about your forearm before. And I had a couple of girls at the studio who were practicing them and dumped some weight into their forearm. And they had to take a little break for a little while because it was just a little bit too much and a little too much force. But then we worked on the safe conditioning to come back, which this is huge. For me, when I teach at the studio, I do this every class I teach with all of my students because regardless, it's so good to help from dumping weight in that bottom hand.
And it sounds like too, like you shift the weight to the elbow as well to catch it in your tummy. Is that another way?
My elbow is literally going into my belly in order to absorb the shock of that swing. So like when I'm coming down, let's see if it works on command. When I'm coming down, I really want to make sure that elbow goes into my belly so that I can push off and come back. So I'm here, I come up. Whoop, and I just did it where I kind of didn't want my hand in that place, so I kind of grabbed, but this is where I want to end up, in this position, okay? So then I can return, okay? When you're working on these, the other thing that you can do with that brass exercise, if you're like, no way, no how, am I swinging all the way up, you can actually also swing down. So I would come up, and I'm gonna side here into my shoulder mount. I'm gonna come into my brass monkey, but hand is gonna be not super extended because remember we want a little bend. Hurt myself a little bit. I'm gonna keep my elbow in, straighten my legs up the pole, little bend, elbow in, squeeze my butt cheeks together. I'm straightening both legs, and I'm gonna come down all in one plane and swoosh through. And swing. I need some dry hands. Super slippery in here. So if you're like, I really don't want to do the swinging up to brass, I don't feel it yet, but I want to practice reversing the negative, which I think is a bit easier. I'm not going to say it's easier, but it's a little bit easier. You can reverse the negative, but you want to think of a few things. More bend in that bottom arm when you're up there. Your legs stay in contact with the pole. You're squeezing your butt cheeks together. You don't want to break at your hips. If you break at your hips, what's going to end up happening is you're going to lose your momentum and you're going to then hyperextend a little bit with that bottom hand. So I'll do it again for you. Coming up. I'm in my brass monkey. I have my bottom hand higher than I normally would. Elbow is squeezing in. My butt cheeks are squeezing so tight. Legs are straight. And I'm going to let my body one plane. And keep swinging.
Have you ever, sorry, another question.
No,
Have you ever had your elbow like roll in, like when you hit it, it rolls in too much?
I have had it roll in, roll out, roll everywhere. Even there, I was so slippery, my finger just kind of slipped and I was able to grab again. I mean, it's so temperamental. The best thing that you can do in order to prevent any of that happening is to definitely focus on your 45-degree angle when you're in those snaps, because if you can find that 45, you have more time to rotate and get that hand there, but then you also will have a little bit more control so that you are not moving it around. That 45-degree angle is huge, huge. Anybody want to give that a go from brass monkey? Swing down. Yes, M. Squeeze those legs together. Straight up the pole, squeeze them together and swing. Yes, nice. Keep swinging when you get there. So M, what you did there was awesome, but your bottom hand, think about placing it higher than you think in your brass monkey so that when you come down, it's not super straight and you'll be able to catch it in that belly area, if that makes sense. Good, Andre. And swing, yes, swing, keep swinging, keep going. Yes, nice. Good, M. Good. Good. Yes, M. M and Andre, just because I saw you guys both do it. When you're up in your brass monkey, keep your legs together. So straighten the legs, keep them together. When you come down for your Fonji, you want to get in the habit of thinking your legs don't spread until you're coming through for that pike position. So keep them together like a plank, together as you free fall, and then split them when you get to the pole, okay? If that makes sense. Once you start and, just basing it off of, your progress today and also like your experience with these, once you start putting these things together, you can do the return from that position as well. So you would swing down and then you would go for the return. So I would make sure that you've had practice with your muscle memory and things like that so that you know where you're going and that you've had some practice with that hand placement as you come down the little flip position and you practiced getting your hand in the right spot. The other thing when you're starting to get ready to work on the return as well is when you're doing that swing down from brass monkey, making sure that bottom hand is in the right position because that's going to be very helpful. What I do want to show you is if you are like, I don't have a spotter, but I do have pillows, so I'll show you the drill that I have for you. But I really want to see what it feels like to put the rotation together, in a very, very, I think it's very user-friendly atmosphere. I'm gonna stick some pillows out, okay? And I'm gonna put them on top of my mat. So give me a second. I'm gonna throw them all over the floor. Again, if you have an actual mat, better. I don't have one here. So if you have nice, big, fluffy pillows, at home, works totally fine. You may still bang something off the floor, so just be careful. But I'm basically gonna take a mat or a bunch of pillows and I'm gonna line them up so that I can lay on them face with my back on the pole. So I'm gonna sit on my pillows, my pillow pile. I don't wanna lay on my pillow pile. I'm gonna sit so that I can lean too far away, so I can lean against the pole, okay? And as I lean against the pole, I want to find a nice height. I don't want, the lower I go, the harder it's going to be to rotate. So as you get better at these, you could also scooch down and start lower. But we'll start higher today. And I'm going to bring my hands into my double cup position. And this is really the hardest part. You're going to lift up into a shoulder mount. You're going to lift up. You're going to compress your feet to the floor. You're going to snap and rotate and land. You want to take your bottom hand off, and that's good practice. So going back to Shannon's questions, like how to get your hand off and not hyperextend, this is a great drill to be able to get your hand out of there and feel confident. Like you're not going to be able to place it because we're on the floor, but you're going to feel comfortable taking it off. Top hand can stay on. Many times it does for me here, just because I don't have enough time to take it off. So compress, I'm going to snap, and I'm going to go. I'm turning towards my bottom arm, and I'm going to belly flop onto my pillows. So coming up. And then you can do it, do as many as you want. I'll do it again. I usually try to do 3 to 5 on each side, just to kind of warm up and make sure. I'm aiming to get, it's another thing, I'm aiming to get that 45-degree angle. For some reason, because you don't have so much time when you're so close to the ground, it is kind of difficult. You end up a little bit more parallel to the floor. But even still, take a video of yourself and try to focus on that 45-degree angle. I don't technically find it so much when I'm doing it so low to the floor, but I absolutely am thinking about it as I'm doing it. So I'm here, and I'm not, and if you notice, I'm not pausing. I'm just going for it, so I don't come up and hold. So coming into my shoulder mount, compress, snap, and go. Bottom hand is off. You can lose the top hand too, but by the time I turn, it's still kind of hanging out there. So if you have a pillow stack, or if you have a mat, I happen to have too many pillows, so it does definitely help. Just make sure you watch your toes, things like that. Stack them up. Courtney, angle your camera down. I can't see you. Nice, Clarissa, yes. And make sure your head doesn't pass the pole, guys. That's how your teeth will be safe. Good, keep flipping over, Clarissa, just so you get that muscle memory. Good. Nice, Courtney, yes. Really good. Good, Andre, you don't need that many pops. Just one, just one. Compress, snap, go. You got it. I know, I want to stay up there forever and pop. Good, nice, Saida, get that bottom hand off. Awesome. Yes, nice, M, awesome. Nice, Janice. Lower those hips, Janice. Good. Good, Andre. Keep turning. You got it. I know they're scary to like want to take your hands off, but the more you do it, I promise you it actually does. You will end up taking your hands off. Yes, M. And definitely try both sides. Natasha's got all the mats coming out. All of the mats. Good, Janice, nice. The things I want you to focus on if you're comfortable, as you're getting comfortable with these or as you're working towards these, the first thing, making sure that you do let go of the bottom hand and you are landing on your belly. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, once you start doing that, I want you to make sure you're not launching yourself away from the pole. You want to stay close to the pole. So if you're flipping over and you're like, yeah, I got there, that's awesome. But now I want you to think about pulling in as you're starting to rotate so that you're not launching yourself away from the pole. If you launch yourself away from the pole, that's when you're basically going to start not being able to catch in that armpit, because if you're far from the pole, how are you going to get in to your armpit? So you need to stay close. The other thing I want you to think about is, where is your head as you're if you're launching yourself back and your head is like centered on the pole, you would hit your face off the pole if you're not pulling enough. So make sure that you're pulling enough that you're staying pretty close into the pole as you flip over. So I'm going to do it again, and I want you to notice, so if you're videoing yourself, you can go back and watch yourself. I want you to notice your ending position when you do this drill, because it's definitely important where you end up. And to not launch yourself, the key is to find your 45-degree angle. So the more you can be on a 45, the more time you have to rotate, and the more time you have to get in that armpit. So finding your 45 is super important for that particular reason. Okay. And I can get a little wilder with these on the mat, but with the pillows, I'm kind of limited with how much I can actually give it. So keep that in mind. If you're practicing this at home and you have pillows, you might feel more confident at a studio with a mat. So it might be like, all right, these are cool, I tried it. And then the next time you have access to a mat, definitely give it a try again, because you'll feel more confident on an actual mat. So elbows in. My head is still looking at the floor, and it did not pass the pole. So if you're ending up here, if you're ending up on an angle, you want to think about that pulling in as you're flipping with that top hand is definitely pulling in, and then you would come into that flag grip. If that makes sense, we're just not getting into that flag grip. If you guys were in the studio with me, what I would normally do at this point is I would assess where you are. That was nice, Courtney. And if you're flipping on the floor and you're not passing the pole, I would then have you do the catch in the air with a spot. So I would normally stand, if I were gonna spot you, if you're on your left shoulder, I would stand on the far side of you, on your other side of your shoulder, and I would help guide you into that catch position. If you feel confident or you have somebody that would spot you, definitely, if you're like, yeah, I feel like these tools, if I work towards this, really are helpful, it's not terrible. Just be careful of your bottom hand, okay? That's the thing I really want you to be careful of. And if you feel at all, when you're coming down and trying that catch, that hand is in the wrong spot, just put your feet down. It's not a problem. You're not high. You can do these from the floor. You don't have to go all the way up to the rafters to do them. I don't know. It's something that I really can't stress enough. It's just being very, very careful of your body and being aware of, your position on the pole. And if it doesn't feel good, stop. Do you guys have any, let me see. And feel free to unmute yourself too. Oh, bottom hand, when you fall to the mat, I just kind of get it out of there. It's nowhere fancy. You might even land on it. As long as it's not on the pole, you're in good shape. Goal is to get it off the pole. Any questions, guys, about anything? Anything you want to see? Feedback about anything? I haven't taught Fonji's. I had a lot of requests for Fonji's online, and I was really hesitant to do it because I really prefer to be in the studio for it. So if there was a drill or something that you wanted to see, please let me know. It is a difficult one to teach online for sure. But I hope you got something out of it. I hope there was something awesome. I'm really glad. I'm seeing thumbs up, so that makes me happy. But really though, any questions or anything like that from stuff that we did today, please ask. I'm here.
I do have a question actually.
Yeah.
I'm also worried about overtraining because I get carried away and then I kill myself, hence my forearm issue right now. But yeah, so how do you know, do you just do 3 Fonji stuff? I don't know, or do you exercise on the same, do you do these exercises on the same time that you're training your actual Fonji, or do you do them different days? How do you
really
set it
great
up?
question. For me, because I am that person that I am so type A, where if I have something in my head that I want to do it every day until I can do it perfectly. When I wanted to learn how to deadlift, every time I touched the pole, I would try 3 times to deadlift. But for me, Fonjis aren't like that, because some days your body just isn't feeling good. And if it's not feeling good, I feel like you shouldn't do it. It's something you have to be really, really careful and aware. And I say that because I'm not a very dynamic person. I do a lot of dynamic things, but they don't come natural to me. So I have to learn everything, the way all these little technical drills that we do. This is how I had to learn them. So it might not be the way you learn them. Like you might be like, oh, I needed a little bit more, just go for it kind of thing. But I'm not a just go for it kind of person. Like I need to understand every single component, especially when it's something dynamic, before I can put it together. So how I started doing them, somebody actually was like, I said it was my nemesis move, and they're like, you should just do it, try it. So I was like, all right, one day I'll just give it a go. And I just kind of threw myself into it, didn't really understand it. And it was just a year ago that I started doing them. And then I started working on them, but I would only work on them 3 times a week at first. And I would do all the drills that we just did. And then I would only allow myself to do like 3 to 5 of them. Like, no, I'm not. And if they don't, and sometimes I wouldn't even catch one of them. Even today, I was warming up and I did like 4 or 5 of them and they were fine. And then I went to do it again and I totally didn't even catch it. It happens. You get slippery, you get sticky, you get tired. And that's when you say, that's enough. Like today I did enough, like end on a high note. Like I had a really good training, by really good drills. Maybe I didn't catch any, but my drills, I had a really nice 45-degree angle in the little lowers, like legs lowering down from the pole. Like there's always a win. It doesn't have to be that you've gotten that whole entire move the whole day. So every day. So for me now, I train them twice a week. And I really do try to be consistent about putting in an actual training for those, since I've been teaching them at the studio a lot. I don't want to get rusty. And I have a class there once a week. So I'll train them twice a week. I do all the drills that we did here, including some other ones, like the one that you had asked me about, Courtney, where you also just do the return from the brass monkey position, which, based on what I was seeing, I do think some of you are close to that, but at some point we can maybe do a part 2 with some of the more advanced ones as well. But I would throw some of those in there. Like today, I just want to work on the return, and I might only do a full Fonji 3 times. Or if I'm putting it in a combo, I'll do a couple Fonjis to warm up, and then I'll say I'm only going to do this combo like 3 times today. And if I don't get a good video of it, if it's not clean, that's something that I have to work on next time. So it's not always like every time is 100% perfect, but you make progress every time. And definitely don't overdo it. I know that's a long-winded answer, but I'm somebody who will just do something every single day until I'm broken.
Yeah, no, that's me too. So I have to stop doing that because my forearms are dying.
A day or 2 a week where you're like, all I'm going to do today is condition and train Fonjis. And if you wake up that day and you don't feel good, say, all right, I'm going to do it tomorrow instead. It's totally fine.
Thanks.
And Amanda said next specialty workshop, Bird of Paradise. Maybe next month. That's still pretty new for me. And then I had hurt myself on the Lyra. It's like my side, a little rib thing, like a intercostal thing going on. And then I aggravated it last week again. So I took a little break from Bird of Paradise, but maybe in July we can do that for sure. Or when I come see you, Amanda, in person next month, we could do Bird of Paradise.
Anybody? Don't be jealous, everybody. Don't be jealous. It's okay.
Anybody else have questions?
I have one question, and I feel like you already answered it.
No, ask away. I know so much information.
So, when you're doing the swinging and you're going back into a shoulder mount, into the reverse, I feel like I've tried it on my own and I just fall so far
away from the pole. That's because you're probably not focusing on that 45-degree angle. Like if your legs are not high enough, that rotation in the air is not going to happen. So think about the swinging drill, and I want you to really focus on practicing swinging up to brass monkey. So even if that was like not in your wheelhouse today, if you were like, that one was not happening today, I want you to, like, every time you train Fonjis, I want you to think, even if I don't get my legs up there, every time I'm going to try to get my legs that high. Because if you're launching yourself away from the pole at any point, I'm finding when I'm teaching these is that the person is not actually at a 45-degree angle, which then you don't have the time to rotate. And that's when you start pushing yourself away for safety, because you don't want to like smash your face on the pole. So it makes sense, but you're just not getting enough height in your rotation. And if you feel comfortable trying it and want to show me, I am happy to watch. But if you're like, I'm dead and I'm super tired, you don't have to do it. You could also send me a video too, because I know we did like a lot of conditioning and I would be so happy to look at it. Anybody else? Questions? I'm so happy you're able to come live today, Natasha. I've seen your name so many times. I was like, yeah. Oh yes, Amanda, I'm sending the recording to everybody. Absolutely. Yep. Anybody else?
Yeah, do you teach any classes to suggest how to spot for this if you wanted to have a partner help you with this?
I do not, because I am still myself learning how to spot them. But I will tell you, the person that I learned a lot about Fonji's from has a recording out there that you can purchase, Heidi Coker. So if you go on her site, and a lot of the drills I did today with you, especially the ones on the mat, came from her, because she helped me a lot last year as well. She had come for a workshop before COVID hit. And then when I started doing them, she helped me a lot. And I ended up using her Fonji training as well. And so I do recommend hers. A lot of the mat drills that we did, very similar to hers. And then she has a spotter video. I bought it. I just haven't actually watched it yet. I haven't had time to watch it, but now it's summer break, so I have all the time to watch it. So this week I'll start definitely watching that. And I was going to actually have my husband here today. He's golfing, unfortunately, but I was going to have him spot me in one so that you could see that. But I figured, let's just kind of see where everybody is, and then we can kind of go from there. If anybody wanted to do something a little more advanced at some point, we could definitely do that. But I mean, I wanted to kind of gauge where everybody was, and give you my favorite drills and see if that would be helpful to you. Hopefully it was helpful.
Regular class that you teach?
Yes, on Wednesdays I teach, and for the summer, since I'm a high school teacher, so I am alternating every other Wednesday. I'm doing one, and one Wednesday is going to be in the middle of the week, or middle of the day, sorry, noon, and then the other week will be 6 p.m. So I've been alternating. So this week is a 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's just an intermediate advanced class. I usually try to do a static combo, and then I try to do a spin combo as well, and I try to pack in as much as possible. Usually we move pretty fast, but they're like shorter combos, so usually can get through it and do lots of different components. I would love to have you for sure. It'd be a lot of fun. So if you have time, definitely join in, because we have a good time. Any other questions? Oh, I'm so glad I'm seeing the chat now. I'm so glad, guys. If there's anything that you have questions about, if there's anything you want to send me, videos, if you were like taking videos today, and maybe I know there's a bunch of you guys, if I missed something, please send it to me. If you're like, I was tired, I wanted to try these again tomorrow, and you like really nail something, or maybe you don't nail something, you want to show me something that went wrong, feel free to send me videos for feedback. I'm more than happy to look at them. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a great Saturday, and hopefully I see you in class soon. And keep an eye out. I'll do something probably in July for a workshop as well. I know Amanda said Bird of Paradise. Let me see if I can get to that, and if my little intercostal area is feeling good. But if you have any suggestions, let me know on ones that I post that you think that you might want to learn.
Thank you.
so much.
Bye,
This is
guys.
awesome.
Great to meet all of you. Have a nice day.